Commander He-jin stared at the large screen in front of him, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his mouth. The red dots on the display shouldn't be there. They really shouldn't be there. "Run the scan again," he ordered, setting down his cup on the control panel of the Korean Space Defense Force headquarters. "Sir, this is the 5th scan," Lieutenant Kim replied, her fingers moving quickly over the keyboard. "The objects are still there, and they're getting closer." He-jin walked closer to the screen, studying the formation of the unknown vessels. 23 ships, arranged in a perfect triangle, were heading straight for Earth. They had appeared just beyond Mars' orbit less than an hour ago, and they were moving fast. "Have the Americans or Russians made contact?" he asked, keeping his voice steady despite the growing knot in his stomach. "No, sir. All attempts at communication have failed. The Chinese space station just reported the same." Kim wiped sweat from her forehead. "Should we alert the president?" He-jin nodded slowly. "Get me a secure line. And someone find Dr. Sunmei. We need her expertise on these energy readings." Within 30 minutes, the command center was buzzing with activity. Dr. Sunmei arrived, her lab coat wrinkled and her hair messy, suggesting she had rushed straight from her research facility. She immediately went to work at one of the computer stations, analyzing the strange energy patterns coming from the alien ships. "These readings don't make any sense," Sunmei muttered, adjusting her glasses. "The energy signature keeps changing, almost like they're preparing something." He-jin leaned over her shoulder, looking at the complex graphs on her screen. "Preparing what?" "I don't know yet," she admitted, typing rapidly. "But the pattern suggests they're charging some kind of system. All 23 ships are doing it in perfect sync." The president's face appeared on the main screen, looking concerned but composed. "Commander He-jin, what's the situation?" "Mr. President, we have confirmed the presence of 23 unknown vessels approaching Earth," He-jin reported. "They're maintaining radio silence and ignoring all attempts at communication. Dr. Sunmei is analyzing some unusual energy readings from their ships." "What are our options?" the president asked. Before He-jin could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the command center. Lieutenant Kim's voice rose above the noise. "Sir, the vessels have increased speed. They'll reach Earth orbit in less than 2 hours. All global military forces are on high alert," He-jin told the president. "We're coordinating with other space defense agencies worldwide. The U.S. Reagan Battle Group is in position in the Pacific, and both Russian and Chinese space defense systems are ready." Dr. Sunmei suddenly stood up, her eyes wide. "Commander, the energy readings just spiked. All ships are now producing some kind of, well, I've never seen anything like it." He-jin turned back to the president. "Sir, I recommend we initiate Global Defense Protocol Alpha 7. We need to prepare for possible hostile action while trying to avoid public panic." The president nodded grimly. "Approved. Keep me updated on any changes." The screen went dark. Over the next hour, He-jin watched as the alien fleet maintained its perfect formation, drawing ever closer to Earth. Global news networks were starting to pick up the story, and social media was exploding with pictures of the ships, visible now even to amateur telescopes. "Commander," Sunmei called out, her voice tense. "I found something strange in these readings. The energy signature. It's similar to sound waves, but unlike anything we use on Earth." "Sound waves?" He-jin frowned. "In space?" "Not exactly," Sunmei explained, showing him a complex diagram. "It's more like they're preparing to generate some kind of sonic effect. But the scale is massive." Lieutenant Kim interrupted with another update. "Sir, the fleet has entered high Earth orbit. They're spreading out now, positioning themselves evenly around the planet." He-jin stood in the center of the command center, watching as the red dots on the main screen spread out in a precise pattern around Earth. Whatever these aliens were planning, they were extremely organized. He just hoped Earth was ready for what came next. "All we can do now is wait," he said quietly, picking up his long-forgotten coffee cup. It was cold now, but he drank it anyway. He had a feeling he would need all the caffeine he could get. 3 hours had passed since the alien ships took their positions around Earth. Commander He-Jin had switched from coffee to water after his hands started shaking. The command center remained tense, with only the soft beeping of computers breaking the silence. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim's voice cut through the quiet. "We're detecting a transmission from the largest ship." Before He-Jin could respond, every screen in the command center flickered. A face appeared. At least he thought it was a face. The alien had large, dish-shaped ears that covered most of its head, tiny eyes, and no visible nose. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice oddly musical. "I am the Grand Overseer of the Superior Fleet. Your planet has been chosen for immediate surrender and addition to our empire." Dr. Sunmai rushed to He-Jin's side with a tablet. "Commander, look at these readings during the transmission. The sound waves are unusual." The alien continued, "We possess a superweapon that no civilization has ever survived. You have 2 Earth hours to surrender. If you refuse, we will release our ultimate weapon, and your civilization will fall." He-Jin pressed the communication button. "This is Commander He-Jin of Earth's Korean Space Defense Force. We request peaceful dialogue." "There will be no dialogue." The Grand Overseer cut him off. "Only surrender or destruction. You have 2 hours." The transmission ended. The President's face appeared on the main screen moments later. "Commander, what's your assessment?" He-Jin looked at Sunmai, who was still studying her readings. "Mr. President, something isn't adding up. Dr. Sunmai has detected strange patterns in their communication." Sunmai stepped forward. "Sir, their entire technology seems to be based on sound. Even their ship's engines produce sound-like energy waves. It's fascinating, but odd." A new voice joined the conversation. "Sir, this is Analyst Jai-ho. I've been watching the alien ship's movements." A young man stepped out from behind a bank of computers. "They keep adjusting their positions like they're trying to create some kind of pattern in orbit. Like speakers at a concert," Sunmai said suddenly, her eyes widening. "They're positioning themselves like giant speakers around Earth." He-Jin frowned. "A sound-based weapon? In space?" "Not exactly in space," Sunmai explained, drawing quickly on her tablet. "Look at these calculations. They could potentially create sound waves that would travel through Earth's atmosphere, but the energy required would be enormous." The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. Every major military force on Earth was put on high alert. Governments worldwide unanimously agreed they would not surrender to threats. As the deadline approached, Lieutenant Kim noticed something new. "Sir, the alien ships are opening up. They're releasing something." He-Jin watched as the main screen showed thousands, no, millions, of small objects being released from the ships. They looked like tiny capsules, each about the size of a football. "They're entering the atmosphere," Jai-ho reported, tracking the objects. "Spreading out evenly across all continents. Impact expected in 5 minutes. All global defense systems are ready," Kim added. "Waiting for your command to fire, sir." He-Jin studied the falling objects carefully. Something about their descent looked wrong. They weren't falling like bombs or missiles. They were floating, almost dancing in the air. "Hold your fire," he ordered suddenly. "Dr. Sunmai, what do you make of this?" Sunmai was already analyzing the data. "The capsules are hollow, Commander. And they're making that same sound wave energy, but it's different now. Almost like." She never finished her sentence. The first capsules began to open as they descended through the clouds. The command center fell silent as the camera feeds showed what was inside. "Are those?" Jai-ho squinted at his screen. "Are those rubber ducks?" He-Jin stared at the main display in disbelief. Millions of yellow rubber ducks were now gently floating down from the sky, each one emitting a faint, high-pitched sound that his instruments could barely detect. The grand superweapon of the alien empire was an army of squeaking rubber ducks. "Well," Ho Jin said after a long moment of silence, "I don't think this is quite what anyone expected." The first reports of rubber ducks landing came from New Zealand. Commander He Jin watched the live feeds as yellow ducks rained from the sky, bouncing harmlessly off buildings and cars. Some people ran in fear. Others stood in the streets, catching them like snowflakes. "This has to be a joke," Lieutenant Kim said, holding one of the ducks that had landed outside their building. "Or a trick." Dr. Sun Mai carefully examined the rubber duck in her makeshift lab corner of the command center. She had 3 screens showing different readings, and a small tool that beeped as she moved it over the duck. "It's not exactly a joke," she said, adjusting her glasses. "These ducks are giving off sound waves. Very specific ones." She tapped some keys, and a graph appeared on the main screen. "See this pattern? It's meant to do something." He Jin's phone buzzed with messages from other military commands worldwide. Everyone was reporting the same thing. Millions of rubber ducks, all squeaking softly, all completely harmless. "Sir," Jiho called out, "the Grand Overseer is broadcasting again." The alien's face appeared on screen, looking somehow smug despite its strange features. "Your civilization will now crumble. Our sonic destructors will drive your species mad. Soon you will beg for mercy." He Jin looked at the rubber duck on his desk. It squeaked quietly when he poked it. "Grand Overseer, I don't understand. These are children's toys on our world." The alien's huge ears twitched. "Toys? Toys? These are our most powerful weapons. The sound they produce is carefully designed to be unbearable. Even now, your people must be screaming in agony." Just then, a news feed popped up on one of the side screens. It showed children in a park in Sydney, laughing and throwing rubber ducks at each other. Another feed from London showed people taking selfies with piles of ducks. In Rio, someone had already started selling T-shirts with rubber ducks on them. He Jin said carefully, "We can barely hear anything from these ducks. They make a small squeak, nothing more." "Impossible," the Grand Overseer shouted. "The sonic frequency is set to maximum pain levels. Our scientists worked for years to perfect it." Sunma suddenly sat up straight. "Commander, I think I understand." She rushed to the main console, almost tripping over her chair. "Look at the Grand Overseer's ears. Their species must have incredibly sensitive hearing. They assumed we would too." He Jin watched as more feeds came in from around the world. In Paris, people were arranging the ducks into art installations. In New York, street vendors were already selling alien duck hot dogs. In Tokyo, a group had organized a rubber duck catching competition. "Grand Overseer," He Jin said, trying to keep his voice serious, "I regret to inform you that your weapon is not having the intended effect. Perhaps we could discuss this situation more peacefully." The alien leader's face had turned a pale shade of green. In the background, other aliens could be seen frantically checking equipment and arguing among themselves. "This is impossible," the Grand Overseer insisted. "The sonic waves should be causing intense pain. Your cities should be in chaos. Your people should be begging for mercy." At that moment, Lieutenant Kim's young daughter, who had been brought to the base during the emergency, wandered into view of their camera. She was hugging 5 rubber ducks and beaming with joy. "Look, Mommy," she said loudly. "They're so cute. Can I keep them? Please." The Grand Overseer's face went from pale green to dark green. Without another word, the transmission cut off. "Sir," Jiho reported, checking his monitors, "the alien ships are moving. They seem to be having an argument. We're picking up a lot of communication between their vessels." He-Jin looked out the window at the rubber ducks still floating down from the sky. Some had landed in the base's fountain, forming a cheerful yellow flotilla that bobbed in the water. "Dr. Sunmei," he said, "I think we need to understand exactly what these sound waves do. And Lieutenant Kim, Please tell your daughter she can keep those ducks. Something tells me we're going to have plenty to spare. Dr. Sunmai hadn't slept in 24 hours. Her lab table was covered with dissected rubber ducks, tools, and empty coffee cups. Commander He-jin watched as she connected another duck to her testing machine. "I've got it," she suddenly shouted, making He-jin jump. "Commander, look at these readings." He-jin walked over to her workstation. The screen showed sound wave patterns that looked like mountain ranges. "The ducks are producing a very specific frequency," Sunmai explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "It's so low that humans can barely hear it. But look what happens when I adjust my equipment to match the aliens' hearing range." She pressed a button, and the pattern changed. The small peaks became huge spikes. "Their ears are incredibly sensitive," she continued. "What's just a tiny squeak to us must sound like a massive explosion to them." They designed these ducks to be torture devices, but they completely misunderstood human hearing ranges. Lieutenant Kim walked in with fresh coffee for everyone. "Like trying to attack a rhino with a mosquito bite," she said, setting down the cups. "Exactly." Sunmi grabbed a coffee. "And there's more. Ji-ho, show them what you found." Analyst Ji-ho, who had been quietly working in the corner, turned his computer screen around. It showed pictures of the alien ships, with certain parts highlighted in red. "Their entire technology is based on sound," he explained. "Their ships, their weapons, probably even their computers. They're so sensitive to sound that they can use it for everything. But that's also their weakness." He-jin picked up one of the intact rubber ducks from Sunmi's table. "So what would happen if we made these ducks squeak louder?" Sunmi's eyes widened. "That's brilliant. We could adjust the frequency to match their hearing range perfectly. Their own weapon turned against them. But how do we make them louder?" Lieutenant Kim asked. "I can help with that," a new voice said. They all turned to see Kim's daughter standing in the doorway, holding her collection of ducks. "I put tiny speakers in my ducks to make them extra squeaky. Daddy helped me." They all stared at the little girl. He-jin walked over and knelt down beside her. "Can you show us how you did that?" he asked gently. The little girl nodded happily. "It's easy. You just need a small speaker and a battery. Look." She squeezed one of her ducks, and it made a much louder squeak than the others. Sunmai rushed over, scanning the modified duck with her instruments. "This is perfect. The sound level is almost exactly what we need." She looked at the little girl with admiration. "You might have just saved Earth with your toy upgrade." He-jin straightened up and looked at his team. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. Dr. Sunmai, work with our young friend here to perfect that speaker system. Ji-ho, calculate how many modified ducks we would need to affect their entire fleet." "What about the ducks already on Earth?" Lieutenant Kim asked. "We'll need to collect as many as we can," He-jin said. "Send out a global message. Tell everyone to bring their alien ducks to collection points. We'll modify them and send them back to our friends in space." Over the next few hours, the base turned into a rubber duck modification factory. Engineers and scientists worked alongside soldiers, following the design created by a child. Sunmai made some improvements to make the sound even more effective, while Ji-ho mapped out the best places to deploy their modified ducks. "Commander," Lieutenant Kim called out, checking her global feeds. "People everywhere are bringing in ducks. Tokyo has collected over 1 million already. New York and London are competing to see who can gather more. Even small towns are organizing duck drives." He-jin looked at the growing pile of modified ducks in their workshop. Each one now contained a specially tuned speaker that would turn the aliens' gentle sonic weapon into something their sensitive ears couldn't handle. "I never thought I'd say this," he said, picking up a modified duck. "But these might be the most important rubber ducks in human history." The world's military leaders gathered in a virtual meeting that filled the main screen of the Korean Space Defense Force Command Center. Commander He-jin stood before them, holding up one of the modified rubber ducks. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "this is our best chance to defend Earth. Thanks to Dr. Sun Mi's research and an unexpected helping hand from a child, we now have a weapon that can affect the aliens without harming humans. The American general leaned forward in his video feed. Let me get this straight. We're going to fight an alien invasion with squeaking rubber ducks. Modified rubber ducks, Dr. Sun Mi corrected him. She stepped into view, carrying her tablet. Each one now produces a sound that's harmless to humans, but extremely painful to the aliens. Their own technology proves they can't handle these frequencies. The Chinese general spoke next. How many ducks do we need? Jai-Ho pulled up a map on another screen. We've calculated that we need about 10 million modified ducks to create an effective sound barrier around their fleet. The good news is they gave us over 50 million ducks to work with. The public response has been amazing, Lieutenant Kim added. She showed pictures of people around the world bringing ducks to collection centers. We've already gathered 30 million ducks. Modification centers are working around the clock. The Russian commander smiled. In Moscow, people are calling it Operation Quack Attack. Even children are helping to collect ducks from parks and streets. He-Jin nodded. We've tested the modified ducks on a small scale. When we launched one near their smallest scout ship, they immediately moved away from it. Imagine what millions will do. The British admiral raised her hand. What's stopping them from simply destroying the ducks when we launch them? Their weapons are also sound-based, Sun Mi explained. Using them would only make things worse for them. It would be like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The meeting continued as they planned the details. Each country would provide ships and planes to help launch the modified ducks into space. They would create a net of sound around the alien fleet, forcing them to either retreat or surrender. After the meeting, He-Jin walked through their base's main workshop. Hundreds of volunteers sat at long tables, carefully adding the special speakers to each duck. The room buzzed with quiet conversation and occasional laughter. Commander. It was Kim's daughter, running up to him with a duck in her hands. Look, I made this one special for you. He-Jin took the duck and smiled. Someone had drawn a small commander's hat on its head with permanent marker. Thank you, he said, putting it carefully in his pocket. This one will lead the attack. Dr. Sun Mi called him over to her testing area. Commander, we've made the final adjustments. Listen. She activated one of the modified ducks. To human ears, it made only a soft hum. But their instruments showed powerful sound waves that would be unbearable to the alien's sensitive hearing. How long until we're ready? He-Jin asked. Lieutenant Kim checked her tablet. First wave of modified ducks will be ready in 6 hours. All launch vehicles are in position. The world's air forces and space agencies are standing by. Sir, Jai-Ho called from his station. The alien ships are moving again. They're clustering together, probably planning something. He-Jin looked at the main screen showing the alien fleet. They had gathered their ships into a tight group, perhaps thinking it would protect them better. They're making our job easier, he said. When the ducks are ready, we'll only need to surround one target instead of 23. Should we warn them? Lieutenant Kim asked. Give them a chance to leave peacefully. He-Jin thought about it, then shook his head. They didn't warn us before attacking. Besides, he patted the duck in his pocket. I think it's time they learned that even the silliest-looking weapon can be dangerous if you use it against the wrong enemy. Launch vehicles in position, Lieutenant Kim announced. All modified ducks are loaded and ready. Commander He-Jin stood in the center of the command room, watching as hundreds of aircraft and rockets took their positions around the globe. Each one carried thousands of modified rubber ducks, ready to be released into space. Remember, Dr. Sun Mi said over the radio to all launch crews, the ducks need to form a sphere around their fleet. This will trap the sound waves and create the maximum effect. Jai-Ho monitored the alien ships on his screen. They're still clustered together, sir. They haven't moved for the past hour. He-Jin took a deep breath. All units, begin Operation Quack Attack. The first wave launched from sites around the world. Rockets carried large containers of ducks into orbit, while high-altitude aircraft released them at the edge of space. The ducks' special design meant they could float upward using the aliens' own anti-gravity technology. First wave approaching alien fleet, Kim reported. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The modified ducks spread out in space, their tiny speakers activating as they got closer to the alien ships. Through their monitoring systems, they could see the effect was immediate. The alien ships are trying to move, Jiho called out, but they're bumping into each other. Their formation is breaking. The command center speakers picked up a transmission from the alien fleet. The Grand Overseer's voice sounded panicked. "What is this? How are you doing this? Stop it at once." "Second wave launching now," Kim announced. More ducks floated up from Earth, forming a tighter circle around the alien fleet. Dr. Sunmai watched her instruments with excitement. The sound waves are building up exactly as planned. The ducks are creating a perfect sonic cage. On the main screen, they could see alien ships starting to drift in different directions. Some were spinning slowly, their engines firing randomly. Others were trying to escape but kept running into the wall of sound created by the ducks. Incoming transmission from one of the smaller ships, Jiho reported. A different alien face appeared on screen. This one looked younger, with slightly smaller ears. "Please," it begged. "Make it stop. We can't think straight." The noise, the horrible noise. Hajin picked up his special duck with the commander's hat drawn on it. "You can make it stop by leaving Earth's orbit immediately. This is your only warning." More alien transmissions flooded in. Different ships were calling for retreat, their crews unable to handle the sound. Some ships had crews that were curled up on the floor, their huge ears covered with their hands. "Sir," Kim pointed to her screen. 3 alien ships just crashed into each other. Their pilots must be too disoriented to steer. "Launch the final wave," Heijin ordered. "Let's make sure they get the message." The last wave of ducks moved into position, completely surrounding the alien fleet in a sphere of squeaking rubber toys. The effect was devastating. Alien ships started retreating in every direction, their neat formation completely destroyed. The Grand Overseer's face appeared one last time on their screen. He was covering his ears with all 4 of his hands. "This is impossible. How can you resist our greatest weapon and turn it against us? What kind of monsters are you?" "We're not monsters," Hajin replied calmly. "We're just humans who happen to like rubber ducks. Now, would you like to surrender, or should we make our ducks squeak a little louder?" The alien leader's face turned almost white. Without another word, he cut the transmission. Within minutes, the entire alien fleet was retreating, leaving Earth's orbit as fast as their engines could carry them. The command center erupted in cheers. Lieutenant Kim hugged her daughter, who had been watching from a safe corner. Dr. Sunmai was already collecting data on the battle, while Jiho tracked the aliens' retreat. Hajin looked at the rubber duck in his hand and smiled. "Lieutenant Kim," he said, "I think your daughter deserves a medal for this. After all, she just helped save Earth with a toy upgrade." "And sir," Jiho added with a grin, "the internet is already calling this the Great Space Duck War of 2025. 3 days after the rubber duck battle, a small alien ship approached Earth. This one was different, painted in white and gold, carrying what looked like flags of peace. Commander Heijin watched it carefully from the command center. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim said, "they're requesting permission to land. They say they have a diplomatic team on board." "Do we trust them?" Jiho asked, his fingers hovering over the duck launch controls. Before Heijin could answer, a young man stepped forward. It was Tawan, a junior diplomat who had been sent to help with possible peace talks. "Let me talk to them first," Tawan suggested. "I've been studying their language patterns from their earlier messages." Heijin nodded. "Go ahead. But Dr. Sunmai, keep our ducks ready, just in case." Taiwan sat at the communication station and pressed the button. "Alien vessel, This is Earth Diplomatic Corps. We accept your request for peaceful contact. Please send one unarmed ship to these coordinates. The alien ship landed in an empty field outside Seoul. Armed guards surrounded the area, each carrying both regular weapons and modified rubber ducks. A small group of aliens emerged, all wearing what looked like thick ear coverings. Taiwan walked out to meet them, accompanied by Hejin and Dr. Sunmei. The lead alien bowed deeply, its ears pressed flat against its head. "I am Peace Speaker Mira," the alien said in careful English. "We come to apologize and explain." They moved to a nearby tent set up for the meeting. The aliens looked nervously at the rubber ducks displayed on a shelf, but Taiwan assured them these ones were turned off. "Our society," Mira explained, "evolved around sound. We use sonic technology for everything: travel, building, cooking, even art. We never imagined meeting a species that wasn't the same. So you assumed we would be just as sensitive to sound as you are?" Dr. Sunmei asked, fascinated. Mira nodded. "All other species we've met were like us, some even more sensitive. The Grand Overseer was sure our sonic weapons would work on anyone." "About the Grand Overseer," Hojin said. "Where is he now?" "Removed from command," Myra replied with a small smile. "Our Council of Elders wasn't happy about this failure. They sent us to make peace and learn about your species." Taiwan leaned forward. "We would be happy to share information about humans, but first, we need your guarantee that you won't attack Earth again." "Attack you?" Mira's ears twitched in what looked like amusement. "After what you did with our own weapons, no one in the Empire would dare. In fact," she hesitated, "many of our people are fascinated by your ability to resist sonic attacks. They want to learn more about you." Dr. Sunmei pulled out her tablet. "I've been studying your technology. It's amazing how you use sound waves for so many things. Maybe we could learn from each other." The meeting continued for hours. Mira explained how their society worked, while Taiwan shared information about Earth's many cultures. The aliens were especially interested in human music, though they needed to listen to it at very low volumes. "One more thing," Mira said as the meeting ended. "What are these rubber ducks actually for? On your world, I mean." Hejin smiled and pulled out his phone. He showed Myra pictures of children playing with rubber ducks in bathtubs, of duck races in parks, and of people collecting them as toys. The alien's eyes widened. "You mean, we tried to attack you with bath toys?" "Yes," Taiwan said kindly. "But don't feel bad. Thanks to this mistake, we're now talking peace instead of fighting a war." As the aliens prepared to leave, Mira turned to them one last time. "Our scientists will never live this down, you know. They spent years perfecting those sonic ducks, and it turns out humans use them to entertain their children." "Well," Hojin said, handing Myra his commander duck as a peace gift, "sometimes the best weapons aren't weapons at all." 1 week after the peace talks began, the alien fleet returned. This time, instead of warships, they sent diplomatic vessels. The Grand Overseer, now stripped of most of his power, stood before the United Nations through a video link. "People of Earth," he said, his ears drooping in shame, "I come before you to officially surrender and apologize for our attack. Our Council of Elders has ordered me to make peace." Commander Hejin sat in the UN building alongside Dr. Sunmei, Lieutenant Kim, and Taiwan. They watched as the former alien leader struggled to maintain his dignity. Furthermore, the Grand Overseer continued, "Half of our fleet has mutinied. They refused to serve under anyone who was foolish enough to attack a planet with bath toys." Quiet laughter rippled through the UN chamber. Even some of the alien diplomats were trying not to smile. Taiwan stepped up to the podium to present Earth's terms. Over the past week, he had worked hard with leaders from around the world to create a fair peace agreement. "We accept your surrender," he said clearly, "and offer these terms for peace. First, Earth will be recognized as a protected independent world. Second, we will establish trade and cultural exchange programs. Third, he paused for effect. You must promise never to use rubber ducks as weapons again. This time, even the Grand Overseer managed a small smile. Agreed to all terms. Our scientists are still trying to understand how we made such a big mistake about human hearing. Dr. Sunmei stood up next. She had spent the week studying alien technology and had made some amazing discoveries. If I may, she said, I have a proposal that might help both our species. She pulled up a presentation on the main screen. We've learned that your sonic technology can be modified to work with human hearing ranges, and some of our technology might help you build better sound protection. We could work together. The Alien Council members looked interested. One of them spoke up. What do you suggest? A joint research center, Sunmai said excitedly. We could study both human and alien sound technology. Think about it. Your sonic engines could revolutionize Earth's space travel, and our sound dampening technology could help your people visit noisy places safely. Lieutenant Kim added, and we've already set up the perfect testing ground. She showed pictures of the former duck modification facility, now converted into a research center. We're calling it the International Sonic Technology Institute. The aliens discussed among themselves for a few minutes. Finally, they turned back to the screen and nodded. We accept this proposal. He-Jin watched as Ta-One and the alien representatives signed the peace treaty. It was written on special paper that wouldn't be damaged by sonic vibrations, with a small rubber duck drawn in the corner as a reminder of how this all started. After the ceremony, He-Jin found Kim's daughter playing in the UN building's garden. She was showing some alien children how to play with regular rubber ducks in a small fountain. The ducks don't have to make special sounds, she explained to her new alien friends, who were wearing their protective ear covers. They're just for fun. The alien children seemed amazed by this idea. They carefully picked up the ducks, trying to understand how something so simple could bring such joy. Back inside, Sunmai was already making plans for the research center. Think about it, Commander, she said excitedly. We could create ships that travel using sound waves, build better communication systems, maybe even find new ways to explore space. Just promise me one thing, He-Jin said with a smile. No more weaponized rubber ducks. Actually, Ta-One interrupted, looking at his tablet. You might want to hold that thought. The toy companies back on Earth have just started selling alien invasion rubber ducks with built-in squeakers. They're already sold out in 20 countries. He-Jin looked out the window at the peaceful scene of human and alien children playing together. Well, he said, at least this time they're being used the way they were meant to be. As toys, not weapons. 1 year after the Great Rubber Duck Invasion, Commander He-Jin stood on the observation deck of the new International Sonic Technology Institute. Below him, human and alien scientists worked together in labs filled with strange equipment, and yes, quite a few rubber ducks. Commander, Dr. Sunmei called out, running up to him with her tablet. You need to see this. Our joint team just made a breakthrough. He-Jin followed her to a testing chamber where a small spacecraft sat on a platform. It looked like a mix of human and alien technology, with smooth lines and what appeared to be speakers built into its hull. Watch this, Sunmai said proudly. She pressed a button on her tablet. The ship lifted off without any visible engines firing. Instead, it made a soft humming sound that was pleasant to human ears, but powerful enough to drive the ship upward. The first successful sonic drive spacecraft designed for both species, she explained. Humans can fly it without ear protection, and aliens can adjust the sound levels to their comfort. Lieutenant Kim appeared with more news. Sir, the first alien tourism groups are arriving next week. They're all excited to visit the Rubber Duck Museum. The museum had been Ta-One's idea. It told the story of the invasion, and now housed thousands of the original alien ducks, along with the modified ones that had saved Earth. It had quickly become Earth's most popular tourist attraction. How are they handling the sound levels on Earth? He-Jin asked. The new ear protection works perfectly, Kim replied. Dr. Sun and his team designed it to filter out harmful frequencies while letting them hear normal conversation. Some aliens are even taking human music appreciation classes. They walked through the institute, passing laboratories where scientists from both worlds worked on new inventions. In one room, they were developing sonic cooking devices that could prepare food perfectly using sound waves. In another, they were creating new medical tools that could heal injuries with specific frequencies. Commander, it was Kim's daughter, now a junior consultant for the Institute's toy division. Look what we made. She held up what looked like a regular rubber duck, but when she squeezed it, it floated in the air, surrounded by a gentle sound field. It's for both human and alien children, she explained proudly. Aliens can play with it without getting hurt, and human kids think the floating is cool. Jin smiled. The toy companies had made billions selling duck-themed products, but this was the first one specifically designed for both species to enjoy together. Taiwan joined them, returning from a diplomatic meeting. The Alien Council just approved our student exchange program, he announced. Next semester, we'll have alien students in human schools and human students visiting their worlds. Any problems with the former Grand Overseer? Jin asked. Taiwan shook his head. He's actually become quite popular as a comedy speaker. Goes around giving talks called My Biggest Mistake, a guide to not invading Earth. The aliens love it. They reached the Institute's main hall, where a large statue stood. It showed a human child and an alien child playing with a rubber duck together. The plaque below read, "From weapons to friendship, how a misunderstanding led to peace." You know what's really funny? Sun Mai said, looking at the statue. Their sonic technology was actually amazing. If they had used it for peaceful contact instead of trying to attack us, we would have welcomed them right away. Well, Jin replied, sometimes you need a rubber duck to show you the right path. Just then, an alert sounded. Another alien species had made contact, requesting permission to visit Earth. Should we warn them about the ducks? Lieutenant Kim asked with a grin. Jin looked at the message. No need. Apparently, they've already heard the story. Their first message says, "We come in peace, and we promise we didn't bring any rubber ducks." Everyone laughed. Above them, in the peaceful sky, human and alien ships flew together, their sonic drives humming in perfect harmony. And in homes across Earth and space, rubber ducks had finally returned to their proper place, floating in bathtubs, making children of all species smile.